The miscalculation. The Crathon Empire had ruled the Andromeda sector for 3 millennia without challenge. Their massive warships, each stretching 5 kilometers in length, had crushed 100 civilizations beneath their crystalline hulls. Supreme Commander Thrakos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable Victory, reviewing the latest intelligence reports from their deep space scouts. His forearms moved with practiced precision across the holographic displays, analyzing data streams that would overwhelm lesser minds. The scout commander, a younger Crathon named Velix, trembled as he delivered his report. His scaled skin shifted from deep purple to pale violet, a clear sign of nervousness among their species. The discovery he had made would change everything the Empire believed about the galaxy. In a remote spiral arm of the Milky Way on the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, existed a species that had somehow escaped the Empire's notice. They called themselves humans, and according to initial scans, they had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Thrakos examined the data with the confidence of someone who had conquered worlds before these humans had even discovered fire. The tactical analysis showed a species with approximately 300 military vessels scattered across their home system. Their largest ship, which the humans apparently called the USS Constitution, measured barely 800 meters in length. By Crathon standards, it was a patrol boat at best. The weapon signatures suggested primitive plasma cannons and basic shield technology that the Empire had surpassed 1,000 years ago. The decision to conquer Earth came easily to the Supreme Commander. The Empire needed new resources, and this young species would make adequate servants once properly educated in their place within the galactic hierarchy. He dispatched Vice Admiral Corvin with a standard subjugation fleet of 50 warships. It was more than enough firepower to glass entire continents if the humans proved troublesome. The journey to Earth would take 3 standard cycles, giving the humans no time to prepare even if they detected the approaching fleet. What Thrakos didn't know was that the ships his scouts had detected were not humanity's military fleet. They were training vessels, crewed by Academy cadets on their final examination exercises. The real human fleet operated far beyond Earth's solar system, hidden in dimensions that Crathon technology couldn't detect. Admiral Sarah Chen commanded these forces from her flagship, a vessel that existed partially outside normal space-time. She had been monitoring the Crathon scouts for months, allowing them to see exactly what humanity wanted them to see. When Vice Admiral Corvin's fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Neptune, they found the human training fleet arranged in what appeared to be a desperate defensive formation around Earth. The USS Constitution moved forward, broadcasting a message of peace and requesting dialogue. Corvin laughed at the transmission, his translator converting the harsh barking sound into something the humans could understand. He responded with the Empire's standard terms of surrender, giving humanity 1 rotation of their planet to submit or face annihilation. Captain Michael Torres commanded the Constitution, though he was technically still an instructor at the Academy. His students, barely out of their teens, looked to him for guidance as 50 alien warships surrounded their small fleet. He opened a secure channel to Admiral Chen, who was watching from a parallel dimension. Her orders were simple and clear. Let them think they're winning. Give the cadets real combat experience, but keep casualties to a minimum. The actual fleet would remain hidden unless absolutely necessary. The battle began at dawn over the Pacific Ocean. Corvin ordered a demonstration of power, having 5 of his ships fire warning shots that vaporized several asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, causing panic in major cities as people realized their first contact with alien life had become an invasion. The human training fleet responded by scattering, using seemingly chaotic maneuvers that the Crathon interpreted as fear and confusion. In reality, every movement was carefully calculated. The cadets had been drilling these exact scenarios for months, though they hadn't known they would face real aliens. Their ships danced between the massive Crathon vessels, using their smaller size and surprising agility to avoid the devastating main guns. When they returned fire, their shots seemed wild and poorly aimed, many missing entirely. Corvin grew more confident with each passing minute, convinced he was facing a species that had barely mastered space combat. Then something unexpected happened. The human ships began to move in patterns that created gravitational distortions, using their own engines to bend space in ways the Crathon had never considered. The wild shots hadn't been missing at all but had been creating a web of energy that suddenly snapped tight around 3 Krathon destroyers. The alien ships found themselves pulled together by artificial gravity wells, their hulls crumpling under forces they couldn't escape. In seconds, 3 of the Empire's finest warships had been reduced to compressed metal spheres. Corvin's confidence shattered like glass. He ordered his fleet to adopt serious combat formations, abandoning the casual superiority they had shown. The humans had somehow developed tactics that turned their apparent weakness into strength. The training fleet continued their hit-and-run attacks, losing only 2 ships while destroying 8 more Krathon vessels. Each human ship that fell was evacuated moments before destruction, though the Krathon didn't notice the teleportation signatures hidden within the explosion's energy release. The battle raged for 6 hours before Corvin ordered a retreat. He had lost nearly a quarter of his fleet to what he had thought were primitive humans. His report to Supreme Commander Thrakos sparked outrage throughout the Empire's military hierarchy. How could training vessels with obsolete technology defeat ships that had conquered entire star systems? The answer, Thrakos decided, was that Corvin had been incompetent. The humans had gotten lucky, exploiting a commander who had underestimated them. Unknown to the Krathon, Admiral Chen had watched every moment of the battle. Her tactical staff analyzed the Empire's technology, their tactics, and their weaknesses. The training fleet had performed beyond expectations, but more importantly, they had gathered intelligence that would prove invaluable. The cadets were quietly relocated to secure facilities, their families told they were on extended deep space assignments. Earth's media was fed a story about a meteor shower and unusual solar activity to explain the lights in the sky. The Empire spent the next 6 months assembling the largest invasion fleet in their history. 2,000 warships led by Supreme Commander Thrakos himself would show humanity the true meaning of power. They brought planet crackers, weapons that could split worlds in half. They brought biological weapons that could rewrite DNA in seconds. They brought the collective might of 3,000 years of conquest and domination. As the massive fleet entered hyperspace, Thrakos was certain that humanity's luck had run out. The Awakening. The Krathon Armada emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships blotting out the stars as seen from Earth. Supreme Commander Thrakos had learned from Corvin's mistakes and positioned his fleet to prevent any escape. 2,000 warships surrounded Earth's solar system in a sphere of death, their weapons charged and ready. The planet crackers alone could reduce Earth to rubble within minutes. This time there would be no clever tricks, no lucky shots, no escape for the upstart humans. On Earth's surface, emergency sirens wailed in every major city. The planet's leaders had known this day would come since the first battle, but they had maintained the illusion of normalcy to prevent panic. President Lisa Washington stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall, addressing representatives from every nation. Her words were broadcast globally, reaching 13 billion humans across Earth and its colonies. She spoke of courage, of standing together, and of trusting in preparations that most people didn't even know existed. Admiral Chen materialized on the main tactical display, her image projected from a location that technically didn't exist in normal space. She had been waiting for this moment, the moment when humanity would reveal its true nature to the galaxy. For the past 50 years, ever since first achieving faster-than-light travel, humanity had been preparing for this eventuality. They had studied the ruins of ancient civilizations, learned from the mistakes of species that had fallen to empires like the Krathon, and developed technologies in secret that violated everything the galaxy thought possible. Thrakos broadcast his demands across all human communication channels. The terms were simple and non-negotiable: complete surrender, enslavement of the human race, and the strip mining of Earth's resources to fuel the Empire's expansion. He gave humanity 1 hour to respond, confident that the display of overwhelming force would break their spirit. The training fleet, rebuilt with new cadets, moved into defensive positions that seemed pitifully inadequate against the Armada. 300 small ships against 2,000 behemoths was not a battle but an execution. Admiral Chen's response came not through normal communications, but directly into the mind of every Krathon in the fleet. The telepathic message was clear, and carried with it images that made even hardened warriors pause. She showed them Earth's history, 5,000 years of warfare that had honed humanity into something unique in the galaxy. Every other species had achieved unity before reaching the stars. Humans had clawed their way into space while still fighting among themselves. developing weapons and tactics from necessity that peaceful species could never imagine. Then she spoke the words that would echo through galactic history. What you faced before was not our military. Those were children, students learning the basics of space combat. Your empire made two critical errors. First, you assumed that visible ships were all we had. Second, you threatened our home. Throughout human history, those who have threatened our families and our world have learned a terrible truth. Humans do not just fight to win. We fight to ensure such threats never rise again. Space itself seemed to ripple around the Krathon fleet. Where there had been empty void, thousands of human warships materialized as if stepping out of shadows. They had been there all along, existing in parallel dimensions that humanity had learned to navigate. The true human fleet was not 300 ships but 30,000, each one equipped with technology that bent the laws of physics. Ships that could phase through solid matter, weapons that could delete sections of space-time, shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The revelation broke the morale of many Krathon commanders immediately. They had brought 2,000 ships to fight what they thought was a primitive species. Instead, they faced a fleet 15 times their size, with technology that their scientists couldn't even theorize. But Threkos was supreme commander of the Empire, veteran of 100 campaigns. He would not surrender to any species regardless of their numbers. He ordered all ships to open fire, to take as many humans with them as possible. What followed could not be called a battle. It was a demonstration. Human ships phased through incoming fire as if it didn't exist. Krathon weapons designed to crack planets simply passed through their targets, hitting nothing but empty space. When the humans returned fire, they didn't use conventional weapons. Instead, they deployed something they called reality anchors, devices that locked sections of space into singular states. Krathon ships found themselves frozen in bubbles of time, their crews unable to move or think, trapped between one moment and the next. The planet crackers, the Empire's ultimate weapons, were neutralized by human ships that somehow existed inside them, dismantling them from within while occupying the same space. It was impossible by every law of physics the Krathon understood, yet they watched it happen to ship after ship. Within 30 minutes, half the invasion fleet had been neutralized without a single human casualty. The Empire's greatest armada had been reduced to floating museums, their crews trapped but unharmed. Threkos watched his empire crumble around him. Every tactical doctrine, every weapon system, every advantage the Krathon had built over 3 millennia meant nothing against an enemy that had rewritten the rules of warfare. But the true horror came when Admiral Chen revealed the final truth. The 30,000 ships surrounding them were not humanity's full fleet. They were merely the local defense force for this sector. Earth commanded nearly 1 million vessels spread across multiple dimensions, each one capable of rendering entire fleets helpless. The Supreme Commander had one last option. The Omega Protocol would detonate every ship's core simultaneously, creating an explosion that would destroy Earth's entire solar system. It was spite, pure and simple, but he would not allow humanity to claim victory. As he reached for the activation key, he found himself unable to move. A human had somehow appeared on his bridge, standing beside him as if she had always been there. The woman wore a simple uniform with no marks of rank, but her presence carried authority that transcended military hierarchy. She introduced herself as Director Amanda Foster of the Temporal Defense Division. She explained that humanity had seen this moment play out across multiple timelines and had prepared accordingly. The Omega Protocol had been disabled before Threkos had even thought to use it. Every Krathon ship's self-destruct had been quietly neutralized by human agents who existed outside the normal flow of time. The Empire had not just been defeated, but had been defeated before the battle even began. The surrender ceremony took place on Earth, in the same United Nations hall where President Washington had addressed humanity. Threkos signed the documents that dissolved the Krathon Empire's military forces and established humanity as the new protectors of the Andromeda sector. The 100 species that had been enslaved by the Empire were freed. Their worlds returned to them with human assistance in rebuilding. The Krathon themselves were not punished, but were offered a choice to join the galactic community as equals, rather than conquerors. Admiral Chen's final report to the Galactic Council became required reading in military academies across known space. She wrote that humanity's true strength had never been in their weapons or ships, but in their ability to prepare for the worst, while hoping for the best. The training fleet that had faced the first Krathon assault had been exactly what it appeared to be. young humans learning to defend their world. But behind them had stood generations of humans who had learned from history that peace must be backed by strength. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity. They were not warmongers seeking conquest, but guardians who had developed terrible weapons precisely so they would never need to use them. The mere knowledge that humanity possessed million-ship fleets hiding in parallel dimensions ensured that no empire would threaten Earth again. The Krathon Empire's defeat had not just been military but psychological, breaking the cycle of conquest that had defined galactic politics for millennia. In the years that followed, humanity shared some of their less dangerous technologies with other species, helping to create a golden age of exploration and cooperation. The training fleets continued their exercises, now joined by cadets from dozens of species learning human tactical innovation. Earth became the galaxy's premier military academy, teaching not just how to fight but how to avoid fighting through preparation and deterrence. The true human fleet remained hidden, a guardian force that everyone knew existed but no one wanted to see deployed. The story of the Krathon Empire's defeat became legend, told in different ways by different species. But they all agreed on one point. The most terrifying moment had not been when humanity revealed their true fleet, but when they revealed it wasn't even their full strength. Somewhere, in dimensions beyond understanding, waited weapons and ships that humanity hoped would never be needed. The galaxy slept peacefully knowing that humanity stood watch, prepared for threats that might never come but ready if they did.